Rooster Teeth recently released an episode of their web series called Death Battle. For those who don't know, Death Battle is an animated series where they take two characters from different universes, whether they're comic book, anime, video game, or cartoon characters, and they, to the best of their abilities, animate it and play out how the fight would go. Their most recent episode featured a fight between Blake Belladonna from RWBY and Mikasa from Attack on Titan. So it got me thinking, what characters would I like to see fight against the RWBY cast? So here's my top 10 death battles I would like to see. So let's get into it. Number 10. Weiss versus SubZero from Mortal Kombat. Now I know we've seen the Ice Queen battle between Weiss and Mitsuru, but I think the Iceman versus the Ice Queen would be nice. Weiss uses various elements of dust aside from ice. She can use fire dust, which would counteract any of SubZero's attacks. SubZero is an excellent fighter. If given the chance, he would wreck Weiss in the hand-to-hand combat. But I think Weiss would have an advantage because she uses glyphs and she can use it to stop him in his place and then go in for the kill and be declared the winner. Number 9. Ness from the Mother series versus Nora Valkyrie. I don't have much recollection of Ness's style of attack from Earthbound, so I'm solely basing this off of Smash Brothers. My apologies. Anyway, Ness can fire special attacks with different elements, including fire and lightning. But the electric attacks would only prove to be moot against Nora, only helping her instead of harming her. Ness can also float up in the air if he needs to escape, but Nora can ride her weapon like a witch's broom. Much like Nora, Ness has a weapon that can launch enemies in great distances. But I think Nora would be declared the winner of this one. Number 8. Cinder versus Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. The reason I put these two together is because they both have an obsession with wanting power and wanting to be the strongest. Vegeta has been obsessed with being stronger than Goku, and lost his mind when he saw that he became a Super Saiyan before he did. Much like Cinder, he's always felt that he deserved that power. I think this fight would be interesting, for about 10 minutes. Cinder has a semblance that lets her make objects out of heated glass at any time. She also has a grim arm that can be used to drain Vegeta's power, and she has the Maiden's power, which may be helpful in battle. But would it be enough? Well, the problem is that Vegeta is faster and stronger than she is. He can shoot energy beams which would counteract pretty much anything she would throw at him. So I think he would be the winner by a huge margin. Number 7. Zwei versus Kate Sith. I'm kidding. Tyrion Kalos versus Kefka Palazzo from Final Fantasy VI. Both of these characters are psychotic megalomaniacs. And they are such great characters too. They aren't cartoonishly evil, which is what makes them so great. Tyrion is a great hand-to-hand fighter. He even has a gun on his weapon, but it doesn't seem to be that strong. But he makes up for it, as he shows he can handle up to 3 other fighters when they're up against him. He also has a tail which can poison another person. Kefka uses a Morningstar, which can be sort of a clunky weapon, but where he lacks in hand-to-hand combat, he makes up for it with his magical abilities. He knows so many powerful spells. His magic can slay an army of foes with little to no effort. He even turned himself into a god, so I don't really think Tyrion can handle going up against a god with such great powers. Number 6. Velvet Scarlatina versus Gogo from Final Fantasy VI. These two are best known for their use of mimicry. Velvet takes pictures of fighters and can mimic their fighting style and their weapon using hard light dust. Unfortunately, the drawback is that it's stored up and then used up, whereas Gogo has unlimited use of his mimicking skills. He would be copying her skills, but then she would be copying his fighting style, which is only copying herself, so it would just be one giant cycle. So, ultimately, I think Velvet would be the winner of this fight. Number 5. Adam Taurus vs. Sapirith from Final Fantasy VII. These two fighters are great with swords. With Adam, he has a semblance called Moon Slice, where any damage his sword absorbs, he can dish it right back, without having to feel it himself, which, according to Yang, is cheap. The problem with that is that without his weapon, he's basically worthless. He's shown not to be that strong without his weapon in combat. Sapirith is the result of an experiment from the Shinra Corporation, in which they injected him with cells from an alien creature called Genova. He has immensely great skills as a swordsman, which would dominate Adam no doubt. But if Adam absorbs the attacks with his sword, it would be game over for Sapirith. But I think I'd have to give this victory to Sapirith. Number 4. Salem vs. Cell from Dragon Ball Z. Oh man, the battle of two villains who cannot die. How would this one end? Well, I'm going to try to break this down the best I can. Now, Salem isn't one for hand-to-hand combat, but where she lacks in combat, she makes up for it in magic. Her magic is very powerful and can obliterate anyone with it. Break her bones all you want, she will only come back for more, considering that Hazel has killed her over and over again. Meanwhile, Cell can regenerate body parts and limbs, so essentially he is immortal, except that he can be destroyed by killing his nucleus, much like how Goku and the others did to defeat him. If Salem can do that, she will have it in the bag, so I would have to give this one to her. Number 3. Yang vs. Samus from Metroid. These two behemoths of combat would be rather entertaining to watch fight. Now I know Yang beat Kefka in a previous death battle, but does she have what it takes to beat the space pirate? Well, Yang's semblance, in her dad's own words, are basically a temper tantrum. Which, yes and no. But the more damage she takes, the stronger she can dish it out. Much like Adam Taurus, but without the sword. She is very well versed in hand-to-hand combat, and her weapon, Ember Celica, is rather powerful and is used often when she is punching up close. As for Samus, she has a rather large array of weapons, including missiles, super missiles, power bombs. She also has a thing called Screw Attack, which can attack while she's flipping in the air when she jumps. She also has a large collection of beams, including a charge beam, ice beam, plasma beam, a wave beam which goes through walls, and something called a spazer beam. I think with all of these in her arsenal, she'll be able to take down Yang. Number 2. RWBY vs. Magnus from Chrono Trigger. The Battle of Scythe Wielders. RWBY has a great semblance that allows her to move quickly by breaking herself down to a molecular level and move from one place to another swiftly. She's a great fighter when she's using her Crescent Rose, which also is a gun. But without it, she's not much of a fighter. Magnus is a great fighter with his scythe, but not exactly the strongest in the Chrono Trigger universe. Where he lacks in strength, he makes up for it in magic. He knows very powerful magic spells with various elements including fire, ice, lightning, and shadow. RWBY can snipe Magnus while he's casting magic spells to take him down and defeat him, unless Magnus can incapacitate her, but I don't think he would be any match for her skills. Number 1. Jean Arc vs. Link from the Legend of Zelda series. Why would I put these two together? Well, it's mainly because they're both great swordsmen. Jean has come a long way from sneaking into Beacon and getting beat by Cardin Winchester. He's grown as a fighter and has gotten upgrades, including a projectile on his shields and bombs that explode. His sword has gotten stronger since getting upgraded. As for Link, he is a much better swordsman than Jean. He has a cavalcade of weapons, including a bow and arrow, boomerang, hookshot, ice rod, fire rod, various magical medallions to use for special attacks. For God's sakes, he even has a magical bee that helps him in combat at times. Link also has a cloak that makes him invisible for a limited time, since his magical abilities aren't unlimited. So he is bound by that, but the weapons he has don't involve magic. So overall, I would have to give Link the victory over Jean. What do you guys think of my choices and picks on who would win? What death battles would you like to see? Let me know in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter at BlackOmen10, and I will see you all in the next one.